When Socrates said 2500 years ago, know yourself, what exactly he meant by that? Because if you look right now and people around, everybody obsessed with knowing themselves, everybody obsessed with this self-help and how to become better. But something is wrong with this idea that this modern obsession with the self, because I think what Socrates meant is know yourself, know your inner self, know yourself the way of how mind is aware of itself, know yourself by gather wisdom about yourself, and then when you wise about yourself, your interpretation of the world would become much more wiser. What happening now? People try to know themselves through the physical representation, through hedonistic desires. They're obsessed with themselves as biological creatures. They only see themselves through their body. I know we don't have a body, we're a body, but at the same time, we have to concentrate on our mind on our intelligence. And I think that's what Socrates meant when he said, know yourself. And the problem with the internet, too many things people try to propagate upon young minds who's not mature enough to be able to select right things from wrong things. It took me a lot of years to understand that something incredibly wrong with me. For many years, I was blind. I denied myself. I tried to justify my vices. I tried to justify my laziness. I tried to justify my fears. And I was hiding behind my vices. And these vices helped me to numb myself, to be less aware of myself. That's exactly what things do to us. We eat excessive amount of food because we want to numb ourselves, want to feel better. We watch pornography to numb ourselves. We play video games to numb ourselves. We do many things that are not good for us to numb ourselves. Because to be constantly aware about the world and about yourself, it's to be almost in the perfect control of your own biology, because you have to control biology. Otherwise, it would control you. It would control your mind. It would redirect your life and make you unable to understand what exactly happening around you. And once you control it, you start discovering new things about yourself and about the world. The world itself doesn't exist. You're the one who sees the world and interpret the world the way you think is right. If you interpret the world through other people's eyes, it's not your world, it's the world of other people. That's what online world is so confusing, because you have a bunch of people who keep interpret the world through this trendy lens. And a lot of other people try to adapt their idea, their interpretation, and eventually it's create confusion. And everybody interprets something that makes no sense and incredibly fragmented. There's no unity, there's no wholeness in this interpretation. To be able to interpret it properly, the world, you have to be able to properly interpret yourself, because you're the first interpreter. You're the one who interprets everything. You're the one who generates this world. And to be able to do this right, you have to again know yourself, and you have to again read books and try to understand, try to find out what exactly is my goal. What exactly is my personal goal? What exactly is my directions? Because on a certain point in life, you come to the crossroad and you have to take a stand. You have to understand, okay, what next? What exactly? A lot of people I notice hiding behind something. They're hiding behind their wives. They're hiding behind their kids. They're hiding behind their jobs. They refuse to take responsibility for themselves by hiding after certain things or people. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and see, okay, that's what I am. What should I change about myself to become better, to become more that I am now? And that's very crucial. I remember myself, when I look at other people, I was recognizing their fragmentations, how fragmented they are because they weren't consistent in their decisions, in their life choices. And then suddenly I realized they have the same problem, the same fragmentation. I couldn't consistently propagate my idea again and again and again to become better. And then I started changing this because I couldn't live anymore the way I lived before. On a certain point, you realize the truth about yourself, and if you're brave enough to accept it, then you have to do changes. On a certain point, you have to finish with your lies. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to see your true self. Don't practice what you don't want to become. Because if you practice lies again and again, you become a lie. And then, when you become a lie, how are you supposed to understand your own desires, your own ambitions, your own goals? You become fragmented. You become an actor of somebody else's story. When you're with your friends, they lie and you lie. You don't correct each other. You don't correct yourself. And nothing is matter. And you don't know what to do. This personality fragmentation comes from too many lies. That's what I like to look inward constantly. That's why I like to understand myself constantly. That's why I'm really feel this need to analyze Socrates' idea of knowing yourself, because in the modern world, I think it's the most important thing for us to do, especially with artificial intelligence, because if you feed your lie to artificial intelligence, it would give you more sophisticated lie back, and what it does, it convinces that your lie is correct. And this constant confusion, if you think about it carefully, right, you look at the world through the lens of your own personal development. And if you don't trust yourself, then you trust someone outside in this world who shape your worldview. To be able to trust yourself, you have to develop certain ground rules, certain moral core that you can stand upon. You can slowly modify it, but the ground, like this core, must be strong and must be the same. Otherwise, you're going to be always swing back and forth, and eventually you lose touch with yourself. But to develop this moral core, this ability to stand behind your ideas, you have to be strong enough to control your biology, because your biology is the one that makes you weak. Because your biology, in some sense, all vices you have around yourself, or all vices you want to have, like you're struggling to overcome, they come from your biology. They come from your body. And once you control your biology, once you control your vices, then you, in some sense, free your mind, and you can think reasonably without too many emotions. Because our problems are feelings. I mean, our feelings is good because they are part of our biology, but at the same time, you have to be able to control your feelings. Otherwise, the feelings control you. You have to share information with other people, and you have to share information with the world. If you don't share information with the world, you share your feelings, and feelings changeable. Today you feel one way, tomorrow you feel another way. While what information does, in some sense, creates such a structure out of your feelings. Because if you feel now this, you have to ask yourself, why do I feel this way? And then while asking yourself why you do feel this way, you kind of shape your feelings in more consistency, giving them more consistent way. In the same way, tomorrow, you're like, oh, why I feel this way? And then you try through the information, you try to give give your feelings such a shape and try to direct them to help you to overcome certain obstacles on the way in your life. Because if you don't have enough information to shape your feelings will work against you. And once they work against you, you're going to struggle with yourself constantly. Because whatever you want to do, the feelings would stand on your way and won't let you to make a step. And once you have enough information to shape your feelings, you actually will control those feelings through shaping them. And then you not only shape them, you would be able to channel them into the right direction, and they would help you to push toward your goal. But for that, you have to have information. And to get this information, you have to learn to know yourself in a proper way by first controlling your biology and then discovering who you really are. Because you're not only your biology, you're not only your body, you're something more. You have a mind, you have intelligence. And to be able to utilize your mind and intelligence, you have to learn to control your biology, and then you start discovering who you really are.